Welcome, learners, to this mini lecture corresponding with Techniques and Civilization, pages 187 to 191. The topic today is Class and Nation. In the last mini lecture, we discussed and examined the class struggle that accompanied the Paleotechnic phase. Today, we will look at what some of the social, political, and national reactions to these conditions were. Marx and Engels, authors of the Communist Manifesto, writing in the context of the atrocious conditions of workers, theorized that the proletariat would unite across national borders and rise up against the bourgeoisie in revolution, replacing the unstable system of capitalism with communism. Just a couple key terms here, and these terms are defined in the glossary of our course. Proletariat was basically the working class, and these were the laborers who had no means of production in order to make money. The only way they could make money is to sell their labor and use their labor to make money. The bourgeoisie were the people who were the managers, the owners, the capitalists of industrialization. So anyway, Marx and Engels said that communism communism in which all classes would cease to exist would replace private ownership of property or private ownership of the means of production. And that kind of the motto or the hallmark of this new society would be from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. This philosophy came to be known as Marxism. This revolution never materialized on an international basis, as Marx and Engels theorized and the early communists theorized, and we'll examine some of the possible reasons for this in the next few slides. One reason that this uprising of the proletariat on an international basis never occurred was that the rise of labor unions and the struggle of the workers to unite, to consolidate, and to try to control that supply of labor. Remember that labor is a commodity, and we know that left to market forces, any commodity is going to increase its value in times of short supply and decrease in value in times of high supply. So, kind of two aims of the labor unions. One were to control the labor supply, and two, to consolidate so that the workers could negotiate and bargain with the bourgeoisie. There's also a link in the Learning Session 6 new knowledge folder that directs you to a website with a more in-depth view of the union movement in the United States, if you want to examine that in a little more in-depth manner. Imperialism was another, one of the other forces kind of getting in the way of this international communist revolution. But, the industrialization of the Paleotechnic phase created a new need for raw materials that oftentimes weren't available in Western Europe or North America. So this led the industrialized nations to conquer new lands in Africa, Asia, South America, for instance, where the inhabitants there were still living a pre-industrial eotechnic existence. And many times the time in Europe from 1815 to 1917 is looked at as 100 years of peace and prosperity, but there definitely was not peace in some of these lands that the European countries were conquering. So when we look at imperialism, it's basically defined as one country asserting political, economic, or social dominance over another country. And this was done all in the name of industrialization in order to search out, number one, new sources of raw materials, and number two, new markets for the finished goods. And then finally, another factor that limited the degree to which communism, as defined by Marx and Engels, played out was nationalism. And really, Marx and Engels underestimated the impact of nationalism. And in fact, they kind of thought that nationalism was fading away, and that rather than the worker being loyal or feeling beholden to his state or country, that the worker would feel more loyalty or be more beholden to the proletariat movement in general, and that would cross international lines. So being French or being German or being English wouldn't be as important as being a worker and a member of the proletariat. And we know that did not play out. And in fact, nationalism really increased from the 1850s onward, moving up into a crescendo, I guess you could say, in 1917 with the beginning of World War I. So nationalism was definitely something that Marx and Engels didn't. So if we look at didn't foresee being so much of a force. So if we look at Class and Nation, we know that there were basically two classes: the proletariat, who were the workers, the bourgeoisie, who were the owners. And so you have that division of Class and Nation on one side, but then you have those national divisions on the other side. And within the national division, you had that one thing that united the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, which was nationalism, love of country, patriotism. So those, two things, as Mumford puts it in the reading, cut at right angles. And they don't run congruently or concurrently. And nationalism definitely ends up winning out and being a unifying factor over class struggle. Okay, as always, make sure to complete the activity corresponding with this mini lecture, and also to answer the essay question corresponding with this mini lecture. If you have any questions or problems, make sure to contact your instructor. This time I'd like to thank you for viewing and participating in this mini lecture.